Why, hello, podcast world. It has been a minute. Welcome to a long overdue edition of Tiggs Bits, your dose of insanity fueled from the brain of me, Tiggs. This is a show that has been on my mind for a while. It is without a doubt a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It is my escape from the realities of this cruel, dark world. It's a place where connections are made sonically, telepathically, and definitely magically. It is without a doubt my personal heaven on earth. It's my happy place. And oh, do I have a lot to say about them. Anyone who knows me knows that I am, of course, talking about live concerts. Oh man, do I love them. I mean, I absolutely love them. There's just something about live music and people vibing to it that feeds my soul. I love that connection that you get from the crowd. It's all so much bigger than just the person that's playing, and even they admit that. It's just such a unique experience, and it doesn't really matter if it's in a backyard, in a club, on a patio, in an arena, in a stadium, wherever. Give me live music. Something to tap my feet to, something to take my mind off of things, listen to whatever it is that they're saying, and just feel it. Just feel it. And when all of those senses go off at once, it almost makes me feel like I'm floating or flying. Like I said, it is my happy place. There's no doubt about it. And when that went away for a couple of years during the pandemic, I missed it. Like, I really missed it. Depressed missed it. I mean, I need that connection with strangers. I crave that feeling of the finale at the end of a show and still wanting more hours and days after the house lights have come on. I miss that anticipation of going to a concert with my friends and all of that fun that leads up to the main event, seeing that act, whoever it is that we're going to see. I love making new friends at those shows because we have something in common. We're there to see somebody that we like. But what I miss the most about all of that is just being able to close my eyes, listen to a song, and feel it. And I mean truly, truly feel it deep in your soul, deep in your gut. So with that said, and that in mind, I decided, hey, I'm going to break down the top 10 concerts that I've been to. Obviously, I've thought about this for a long time, and I've been to a ton of concerts. So I think naturally I've kept a top 10 list in my phone for a long time. But I've always felt like I really need to dive in, evaluate that list, and really kind of put it together into a true top 10 list if somebody ever were to ask, and no one does, but if someone were to ever ask, what's your top 10 concerts? I could give them an answer. So we'll start here on this show. But look, it's a real simple litmus test for me of how I got the top 10. These are the concerts that made the hair on my arms stand up. They gave me that feeling of a deep connection with an out-of-body type of experience. And so narrowing this down to 10 has been almost impossible for me, but I've spent a lot of hours going over all of the shows that I've been to. And look, I've been very fortunate, and I've seen so many concerts over the years that I really can't even get an accurate count. But from the years 1998 until COVID, I pretty much made it a mission to see a show a month of some type. So you can do the math on that one. But my love of concerts really started at an early age. The first concert I ever remember going to was when I was around 4 or 5 years old. My parents took me and my sister to see Alabama, the supergroup, not the football team, just being clear. Uh, but I can still see the lights and the stage in my head whenever I close my eyes. I'm doing it right now. I can see them. I remember where we were sitting, and I just remember being in awe. I was sucked in. Crowds going crazy, the screams from all the ladies to Randy Owens, the loudness of the music. It was all just so amazing to me. And then a year or so later, I remember seeing Kenny Rogers. Once again, I was with my parents and my sister, but the biggest memory that I have of that night was when he sang his song, Lady. I was standing up on a chair so I could see since we were on the floor, and they had a projector screen on what would be the scoreboard, kind of like you were at mid court. And I almost want to think that he was in the round. I'm not 100% on this. This is like 1982 or 1983. But anyhow, we're on the floor, and I'm standing up in this chair so I could see him. I mean, I'm 4, 5, 6 years old, somewhere in there. So he starts singing "Lady," and the next thing I know, boom! I passed out, just like a lady who had been touched by the gambler. So I have no idea what had happened to me, but I know this. I freaking felt that song deep in my soul. It wasn't like I just passed out or whatever. I felt it. I closed my eyes. I kind of leaned my head back and kaboom. Next thing I know, I wake up in my mom's lap. But that feeling it never left me. It's never left me. And I still, well, fortunately, I don't still pass out and whenever I close my eyes, but that feeling really captivated me of like, wow, you're really connected to this whole place. Everybody's just one thing. So I look back on those two shows, not just because that's where it all started for me, but because that's where I first discovered that feeling that I get whenever I go to a concert. In fact, I made a little post on the Tigs Bits podcast Instagram page with a meme of that one guy at a concert who is enjoying it way more than everybody else, yet he has no clue who the band even is. I'm that guy. 100%. That's me. I am that guy. If there's a groove being dropped, your boy Tiggs here is front and center. I swear live music is my fuel at times, and it really helps to keep me happy. It gets me through the day. There's always music playing for me. I have to have it. I simply can't thank my parents enough for taking me to those shows. And really for my love of music, that's where it all really began. This whole journey that I've had of going to concerts started there. And look, I listen to pretty much everything under the sun, thanks to music being so important to my parents. And they've always had good stuff playing, even if it's a little more mellow than I typically jam, but always have good stuff playing. And look, I remember every year, especially till I was probably 12 or 13 or so, but I remember my granddaddy would call our house the day that we were leaving to go on our family vacation trip to Galveston. We would go there every summer, and he would crank up his record player and play us Glenn Campbell's Galveston every single time. I loved it, man. That's just the good stuff. And of course I haven't ever forgotten that memory, but doing this podcast, doing some of the research that I've done to kind of put it all together, that popped back to me. And it's just, music has always been there. And I just can't be thankful enough for it being there. It really is something that gets me through life. So anyhow, back on track. So as I got older, my dad would take my friends and me to concerts. We saw Bon Jovi and Skid Row in 1989 at the Lake Charles Civic Center. Yeah, that was freaking incredible. Pretty sure I'm not pretty sure. I know that was my first rock concert, and it definitely left me wanting more. It was freaking awesome. John Bon Jovi walking around on the catwalk up above, up attached to the ceiling. Just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. But I remember my dad rolling up napkins and plugging them in his ears because it was so loud. Or it was either that or he had had enough of Sebastian Bach's filthy mouth saying the F word pretty much every other word in between songs. But regardless, what a funny memory of dad rolling that up. Of course, he did it at other concerts too that we went to, so it became a trend. But that's where I first saw it. And he took a couple of my buddies and me to see the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge tour in 1994. And I'll never forget when we left. He said, "I'll tell you, that place sure did smell like burning rope." So I think we know where the burning rope smell came from, but yeah, I would say that is accurate. He dropped my buddy Josh and me off at the PMAC one time to see MC Hammer, Boys to Men, and Jodeci. That was a good show. Heck, he even took me to see Kuiper and Young MC in the Cajun Dome sometime in the early 90s. I don't remember exactly when, 93 or something, 92 or 93, somewhere in there. And one that he and I still talk about, we saw Milli Vanilli. Yes, I saw Milli Vanilli in the Cajun Dome in May of 1990. After that concert, I remember my dad asking me if I thought they were really singing because their stage show was incredible. They're doing backflips, sword fights, pyro, but I mean, they're running. They never stop moving that whole show. Just all kinds of things that they did. It was an awesome show. Of course it was. It was all choreographed. It was fantastic. But Dad was just amazed that they never were out of breath. And it wasn't long after that show, like a couple of months, that they got busted lip syncing, and the rest is history with them. Of course, they went down after that, but it was a memorable show for many reasons. Definitely not a top 10. Look, I've seen an absolute ton of great artists over the years, like Guns N' Roses, Kiss, The Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Nine Inch Nails, Garth Brooks. Side note, best country concert ever. It's not even close. Def Leppard, Kings of Leon, George Strait, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Revolution, Tim McGraw, Journey, the Beach Boys, who, by the way, are still up for the loudest concerts that I've ever been to. That one was in the late 80s in the Centroplex, the Raising Cane Center now, and it was unbearable. My mom was not impressed one bit. In fact, spoiler alert, no concert I have ever seen in the Centroplex is even close to being in the top 10. The sound in that building is horrible. It's like going to a concert inside of a tin can. I can go on and on, but look, none of those acts, all of those amazing people, all of them, none of those are in my top 10. And that's some good ones, some dang good ones. Those are some of the best shows I've ever been to, without a doubt. So look, to say that this is subjective is an understatement. It is all in the eye of the beholder, which is me. So this is my top 10. I highly doubt your top 10 would look anything like mine, but I'm just going to kind of talk about the top 10, what made that show so special to me, and why I think it's worthy. So look, the one thing that I hope happens over the course of time is that I get to modify this list, because that means someone's gotten knocked out. That means somebody that I've seen from this day forward has come in and made it better than one of these 10. And I'm going to tell you, that's going to be freaking tough to do. All right, so let's just get this party started. Coming in at number 10, Widespread Panic in the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee on December 31st of 2016. Now look, this is a band I've seen several times. The first being in 2008 with my friends who had turned me on to them. If you've listened to any of the other podcasts, then you've heard me talk about my Florida days. I've had my buddy Chad Blasey on the show a couple of times, and we've talked about those and music being a big part of all of our friendships and stuff. Well, Widespread Panic was huge amongst them. So I get to go to my first concert in 2008, and this whole time I've been kind of skeptical as to why they had such a huge, almost cult-like following with them. Of course, they're a jam band, and I guess in an essence, they're people look at them similarly to like the Grateful Dead because they've been playing so long. They play these 3 nights in a row and all this stuff, but they have a huge fan following that follows them around from town to town. It's incredible. Whenever at that show in 2008, whenever they played a cover of Don't Be Denied by Neil Young, I was hooked. It is still one of the best songs I've ever heard any band play live. And then after the show, my friend Cade was asking me what I thought and all of that. And I told him how much I loved that song. And then he told me a story about how it was one of the last songs that the former guitarist Michael Hauser played at their last show just before he passed away after a very brief battle with cancer. He was only 40. So look, anyone who has known me since 2008 knows that they're a constant in my rotation of music that I play, period. But this particular show on New Year's Eve was absolutely magical. First one at Orange Beach, amazing. All the others that I've seen, fantastic as well. In fact, the last show that I saw them at around Halloween just last year in 2021 in New Orleans, that show made a run up the rankings. It may even be number 11 on the list. But this show on New Year's Eve, oh man. So it's New Year's Eve. It starts on a Saturday night and it finishes on a Sunday morning in a whole new year. And they always say, never miss a Sunday show. And it's true. Look, they have always had nice lighting for their shows. Their sound's just always spot on, absolutely incredible. But every year on New Year's Eve, they go all out. I mean, all out. And at this one, they had these 4 monster disco balls hanging from the ceiling of the arena. And it created this amazing effect. Like, just if you've ever been in a skating rink or anywhere like that, and there's a disco ball, or anywhere you've seen a disco ball, just that shimmer, that light that it gives off. Well, imagine that in an arena with a crowd. And I've seen one big disco ball before, and that's cool. But imagine 4 of them with the biggest, brightest lights you've ever seen shining straight up on them. It was incredible. But look, they didn't really go crazy using that effect. I believe we saw them a little bit in the first couple of sets, not a ton. But once they did the countdown, the New Year's countdown, once that had concluded, they opened up their very first song in 2017, Disco, which, I mean, what a fitting song. Disco, there's these 4 disco balls, confetti starts to fall, balloons are falling, people are popping the balloons. I mean, just pure fun. It was just an absolute party. And on this night, they played 3 full sets, which is insane to have in one night, but because a full set's basically, it's a concert. It's an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes just there. And they also, of course, have an encore, which a widespread Panic encore is generally 30 minutes. They don't play short songs. So look, this was a solid 4 hours of music that they played that night. That doesn't include the breaks and everything. I was in that arena for a while, at least 5 hours or so, if not longer. But it was just fantastic. So in the very first set, they had a string quartet with them, and man, they played a cover of Paul Simon's "Still Crazy" after all of these years. Wow. For the strings to be involved and all of that, just wow, what a cover. Interesting little side note on that. Everybody loves to see the star kind of flub one, make a little mistake or something like that, whenever you see a live band, because it very rarely happens with these guys, especially this top 10. You very rarely do you see one of them make a mistake. Well, that particular song, he had started singing maybe 15, 20 seconds into it, flubbed the words or the beat wasn't right. They weren't in sync, and he shut her down. They started over, and it was perfect. I'm talking perfect. Just amazing. Of course, they played some of their other hits that they have and all throughout that first set. Then set 2 rolls in, and there's some Panic staples played like Tall Boy and Ain't Life Grand just before we hit the New Year's Eve countdown. And man, Ain't Life Grand, if you've never listened to Widespread Panic, start there. That's a great song to jump into. You'll occasionally hear it as bumper music on Fox with football and baseball. You'll hear it sometimes, but just a great song, very positive and all that. But a great way to end 2016. Ain't Life Grand. Then we hit the New Year's Eve countdown. Disco comes in, and once disco had concluded, the very famous backup singers, the McRae sisters, hit the stage for the Beatles cover with a little help from my friends, and Van Morrison's Moon Dance, and just wow. The McRae sisters, they have been backup singers on so many different artists, like the Black Keys, Eric Church, Johnny Lang, Robert Randolph, Carrie Underwood, Hank Williams Jr., Dr. John, Sheryl Crow. It's just unbelievable. Some of them have worked independently with Bob Dylan, Elvis, Isaac Hayes, Stevie Wonder. So these backup singers aren't just your normal backup singers. They are the best of the best. You've heard them on some of the most famous songs ever made. So for them to come in and help do some of these covers and originals too with Widespread Panic was just awesome. Just freaking awesome. Towards the end of that set, Panic did the craziest chili water that I've ever seen from them. And look, just keep this in mind. If you're at a Panic concert, people start slinging water everywhere, not really throwing water bottles, just tossing water up in the air. It's because they're playing the song Chili Water. So you're going to get soaking wet. Just deal with it. At least it's just water. It's only been water in my experience. But so set 3 finally ends with one heck of a cover of Red Hot Mama by Funkadelic. I mean, this show's an absolute party. Sure, they played a lot of cover songs that night, which they usually do. I mean, that's what they do on New Year's Eve shows. But holy cow, was it rocking. And then they come back out, 2-song encore. I mean, what else do you need at this point? But they close out with Buffalo Springfield's For What It's Worth and the extremely fitting Burning Down the House by Talking Heads. I mean, this show had everything I love. Lights, unbelievable guitars, the crowd was amazing, great special guests, everything about it was pretty much perfect in my book. Just never forget, if you see that Widespread Panic is playing somewhere, and they usually have 3 shows in a row when they do, never miss a Sunday show. Number 9. And wow, I know a few folks are going to be surprised to see that this band ranked this high up on my top 10. This concert took place on June 19th, 2010 at the UNO Arena with a band that is simply incredible to see live. They sound even better than they do on their studio albums, if that's even possible. Really and truly, they're in a category all on their own, as far as I'm concerned, anyhow. They're not heavy metal. They're not alternative metal. They're not dark metal. Whatever label or genre you want to put on them or apply to them, they're just simply Tool. And man alive, was this show the ultimate freaking Tool show. Now, again, this is a band that I've seen many times. In fact, I saw them just this past February in New Orleans, and that show and this one are, I mean, they're virtually tied. When you go to a Tool concert, you're getting some amazing music, first of all, but then you get the light show and the video screens and all of that to help aid in telling the stories of the songs that are being played. In fact, the lead singer for Tool is never at the front of the stage like a traditional concert. He's always in the back, in the shadows, by the drummer, just no lights on him or very little lights. He's really not a part of the deal. And the band, they're there. They're the ones who are out in front. He says it's because, they make all of the music. He just comes in and lays down vocals. But look, it's been working quite well for them over the years. It really has. And look, I feel after seeing this show in February that they have reached the peak of lighting and technology and all of that is out there that's even possible. But that night in June of 2010, they absolutely came to New Orleans to punch you right in the freaking face. From opening with Third Eye for the first time since 2002, which was 8 years at this point since it had last been played, and later on playing Intolerance, also from their first or their second album. For the first time they played that in 8 years. That really put the ribbons and the bow on this awesome present of a show. I mean, they mainly played songs from their latest 2 albums at the time, Lateralis and 10,000 Day, but you're getting zero complaints about that here. Everything about that show was great. The laser lights, the smoke, the insanity that was on the screens, the crowd, the set list. The first time that I saw Tool was in 2002. And again, another show that's just equally incredible. It's tough for me to choose between any of these shows, that 2002 show, this 2010 show, and the 2022 show. They're all amazing in their own ways, but I just keep coming back to this UNO show it was my favorite. It really was. Just everything about it meshed. And if you've never had a chance to see Tool and you like rock music, I highly suggest you see them. It is without a doubt an experience. I never have seen Pink Floyd, but I would think that a light show and the kind of similar vibe and all of that you get now would be something kind of similar to what that was whenever they were ruling the world. Not that Tool rules the world by any means, but you know what I mean. Just a little word to the wise, though. Don't pull a camera or a cell phone out at a Tool show. They'll have you removed. No experience from me, but I still remember seeing several people being escorted out, especially in that 2010 show. But however, at this last show that I saw them at in February, they told the crowd, hey, it's time. You can pull out your phones and record this. And kind of made a little joke about it, but it was cool. And there have been a lot of videos. So maybe they're coming around a little bit. But I will tell you, sounding a little like a boomer over here, as my daughter would say, I do enjoy going to a show where you don't see everybody holding their dadgum cell phones up in the air. You can use the cell phone. I like it when they'll light an arena up holding the phone and all of that. It has its place for sure, but don't be on it the whole time and record the whole show. Somebody else is recording it for you. Just roll on, enjoy the show, live in the moment, man. Anyhow, let me get off of my soapbox. Moving on to number 8. And man, did this show surprise my wife and me when we saw them in the New Orleans Arena, the then New Orleans Arena, on August 8th of 2009. Look, I'd been wanting to see this band live since I first heard their album that made them famous. The album with the greatest name in the history of albums. Dookie. Of course, I'm talking about Green Day. Look, I remember watching Woodstock 25 in 1994 and thinking, man, these guys put on one heck of a show. They worked the crowd, the energy, everybody's just responding. Of course, they went on to become pretty dadgum famous after that. And then over the course of time, about 10 years later, they released their masterpiece in 2004, American Idiot. That album was incredible for so many reasons, but it really fit into that post 9/11 world really, really well. And they were at the peak of their careers, the peak of touring, all of that in 2009 when we saw them. To say that we were blown away is an absolute understatement. The way that Billy Joe Armstrong works the crowd really makes you feel like you're the fourth member of the band. I mean, this concert was just amazing from the moment that they hit the stage with Song of the Century to the guitar medley that they had in the middle of the show with Van Halen's You Really Got Me Now, Ain't Talking About Love. Then they roll into Survivor's Eye of the Tiger and Black Sabbath's Iron Man to the Skids cover of The Saints Are Coming, which has only been played by them twice, and I saw it both times. When the Superdome reopened after Hurricane Katrina and they played with U2 to reopen the dome, and then again on this night in 2009, two of my greatest memories that I've had at any type of an event had one major connection. Green Day. Like, Green Day, really awesome. So, but at the time, the New Orleans Arena, like it was called, that place went absolutely bonkers whenever they played The Saints Are Coming. I mean, bonkers. In fact, it hadn't been played again. They've never played it again, which is incredible. And I'm glad they save it for New Orleans. But what's even crazier is Green Day has not played New Orleans since this show. Now, I do believe that they were scheduled to play 2 or 3 years after that at Voodoo Fest. And the Billy Joe Armstrong, the lead singer, had some issues or went to rehab or whatever. And Metallica actually came in and played that Voodoo Fest set for them instead, or played in their place. But look, what was so awesome about that show is as it kept rolling on, it just kept getting better, stronger. The crowd was getting louder, more into it. And Billy Joe brought a couple of fans to help sing Longview and Basket Case, a couple of their most popular songs. They brought them onto the stage to sing it with them. And I mean, what a freaking experience for those folks. You know, the First Lady freaked out naturally and forgot the words. And She was just happy to be up there, couldn't believe it, was stunned. She froze. It's okay. Most people probably do, I would think. Then this second guy comes up. They bring him on. He freaking took over. Like, this was his moment. He had been waiting for it. He sounded great, too. There's still a YouTube video out there. I looked it up of this happening. He was fantastic. Billy Joe wanted him off the stage pretty quick, though, because he can't steal his show. And then this kid came on. He was probably 14 or 15, and he finished singing Basket Case with them. Man, I'd love to interview that kid to see what he thought about that moment, because it had to be incredible. Absolutely incredible. I guarantee you he remembers it. But just really fun. It's cool to see a band interact with a crowd like they did, and you could just feel it. Everybody was into it. It was just an amazing show, and I was looking forward to it. You know, I knew it was going to be a fun show, knew it'd be a good show. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it would be that freaking good, though. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And then they finished the show with Good Riddance. Hope you had the time of your life. What a fitting way to close this epic concert. I mean, it's making the hair on my arm stand up now, just even thinking about it and talking about it. It was incredible to see, and I hope I get to see them play again someday. Definitely want to see them play again, because it was incredible. I doubt they can top it, but I'd like to see them try. All right, so that was number 8, Green Day. Here we are at number 7. Look, if you would have asked me if this band would be on my top 10 list just a decade ago, I would have said that I highly doubt that. They were as big of a band as there was in the world whenever I started college. They've still had several hits over the years, but I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan. In fact, I didn't even have any of their albums whenever I was going to college and they were in their quote unquote prime. I kind of labeled them as frat rock, and that simply wasn't true. I was dead wrong. I never gave them a chance back then. And look, I regret it. I really do. I missed out on what I now hear at least weekly. I hear a song, something in Spotify or one of my music playlists. It's always going to recommend this band, and they come in. So I finally get to see this band for the first time in 2010. And if it weren't for these 2 shows in Atlanta at the Tabernacle, and yes, they deserve to be the only band on this list with 2 shows, then that 2010 concert that I was at in Las Vegas would definitely be the entry here, without a doubt. They continue to make amazing music, put on the most incredible, high energy, positive vibes show that there is out there. That band is none other than 311. 311. Yes, sir. And I think it's impossible for you to have a bad time at a 311 show. Absolutely impossible. So, this was a 2-night show at the Tabernacle in Atlanta. What an incredible venue to begin with. But I really feel like this was all just one big show. The next night was just the continuation of the night before, really. The Tabernacle, it's an old church. In fact, there's still the organ pipes are still in the walls behind the stage. It has these beautiful stained glass windows all around the top level of it. The acoustics in there are unmatched. They're just fantastic. And with our friend DJ Soulman getting the crowd hyped up before 311 hit the stage both nights, the tomahawk chop happening after a Chad Sexton drum solo, all of that stuff just really brings these two nights into one of the best shows that I've ever, best two shows, because they're the same. They were the same both nights, equally as impressive. Just unbelievable band to see live. In fact, after they do that tomahawk chop one night, which I'm a Braves fan, so fun. Grew up loving the Braves and the Cubs and the Astros, but have always been a Braves fan. To hear the whole crowd do the tomahawk chop after a little drum solo where it kind of got some rhythmic drum beats in there, just fun. Then they jump on into this song Applied Science, where the whole band comes out and they're banging on these drums, and they'll throw sticks. They'll throw their sticks across the stage to each other and catch it. And look, I've seen them play Applied Science probably 10 times, 8 to 10 times, and throw those sticks. And this isn't a short throw. We're talking 10, 15 feet in the air. They throw their drumsticks. The other person they're throwing it to also throws their drumsticks, and they both catch them. All four of them, the two pairs do it. It's crazy. I've never seen them drop a stick. Now, I know they've had to have, but I've never seen them do it. It's simply insane. But look, everything is just super high energy and positivity whenever you're around them. And all of the times that I've seen them, these two nights, it shined the best, in my opinion. Those two shows just were absolutely incredible. I mean, what other band has their very own holiday, 3/11 Day, on March 11th? Every year, and every 2 years, they have a 3/11 Day where they have concerts. Like this past year, it was in Las Vegas, and they played on March 11th and March 12th. Played about 40 songs a night, which is crazy. But no other band has their own holiday out there. It's crazy. But these sets in Atlanta, on a total other level, really were. In fact, there's a YouTube video of that first night. You can search the 311 Tabernacle on YouTube, and it'll pop up. It's the first thing. I think it was Yahoo who live streamed the show originally for Live Nation, one of those first streaming shows that I really remember being broadcast that way. And this is 2014. Wasn't that long ago, but it wasn't the norm, especially that it is now. But then there's also another little story with those nights. My friend had bought the lead singer, Nick Hexum's guitar, and he played it. Nick Hexum played it for the last time on that first night to their hit song Down. That's what closed the show. At the very end of the song, he threw that guitar across the stage to the stagehand, who fortunately caught it. The look on my buddy's face, though, as that happened was priceless. It's almost like that guitar froze in the middle of the stage. I had enough time to look at the guitar, look at my buddy, look at his mouth starting to open, look back at the guitar, watch it keep going, and go, ah! And then he caught it. The stagehand caught it. I looked at my buddy, who then laughed, but he was a little bit nervous whenever that happened. And of course, it probably doesn't hurt that we got to go back to meet the band after that show, to go backstage and pick up the guitar. But even if you take that part of the story out of this, that show lives up to the best that I've ever seen from 311, more so than any of the others. Simply magical. It was simply magical. And that leads us to number 6. So coming in here at number 6 is without a doubt one of the biggest bands to ever do it. I mean, ever do it. And this show was something to see. It was simply incredible. From the opening band of Stone Temple Pilots, yes, Stone Temple Pilots and Scott Weiland led Stone Temple Pilots was the opening band. They played a full-on hour and 15, hour and 20-minute set, but it truly didn't even compare to the rock legends that hit the stage after them. And that's saying a lot. If I have to rank my top opening bands that I've ever seen, they're up there. They're up there. Stone Temple Pilots may be number one, maybe number two. Without a doubt, one of the best opening bands that I've ever seen. So, look, again, doesn't compare to the rock legends that hit the stage after them. This band is so dadgum big that it has had its very own roller coaster ride at Disney World. I think you know who I'm talking about now. The Rockin' Roller Coaster. Of course, I'm talking about Aerosmith. I mean, man alive, did Steven Tyler and the boys deliver when we saw them on this night in 2002 at the Century Tail Arena in Bossier City. I mean, wow. Look, Aerosmith's been making music since just before I was even born. Of course, the Walk This Way version with Run DMC is what really kind of put them on my radar whenever I was a kid. I was, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, whenever that came out. And then they hit the late 80s after having some internal issues, drug use, whatever, for years. And they really never looked back after the late 80s. In 1987, we got Permanent Vacation with Ragdoll, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Angel. And then in 89, we saw Pump, which had Love in an Elevator, Janie's Got a Gun, What It Takes, The Other Side. 92, Get a Grip with Living on the Edge, Crazy, Amazing, Crying. Just that 5-year run alone is one of the best I've ever seen or heard from any band that didn't stop there. You know, I mean, to see them live was just simply surreal. Not only had Stone Temple Pilots just opened the show with a ton of energy, Aerosmith hit the stage and straight up increased it. I was blown away with how good they sound live. Every single note from Tom Hamilton's bass was felt. Joe Kramer made you feel every single snare and bass drum hit and cymbal hit. Joe Perry shredded like the guitar god that he is all night long. And only Steven Tyler can sound like he did that night. I mean, wow, I think he sounds better live than I ever imagined. Just, he can work a crowd. It was an absolute perfect culmination of my youth, all wrapped into a show. And coincidentally, the show was on a crazy date of 10/22/02. Kind of crazy to think about, but it's almost been 20 years since I saw it. My daughter was born almost a year after this concert. And now I have a son who was born almost a decade after it. Holy cow, I'm getting old. But when making this list, Aerosmith was an easy automatic entry without a doubt. Knew they were in the top 10. But look, depending on the day and how I feel, this show's easily could be in the top 4 on my list. My top 3 are pretty locked in. They're not pretty locked in. They're locked in. It's going to take something major to beat them out. But from 4 to 10, depending on the day, depending on my mood, all of that, All of these can make a case for number 4 without a doubt. But this show starts off with Love in an Elevator, and then it closes with Walk This Way. I mean, you can only imagine what comes in between. Pretty much all those hits that I listed that came out from 87 to 92 and past that, they were all played. Every single song that they've ever made that had a hit or was known of any type, they freaking played it. They played for 2 hours and 45 minutes at least, if they played for a minute. One of the most memorable parts of that show is one where I generally would take a bathroom break, but this made me stick around. When they played Pink and the Century Tell Center turned completely pink everywhere, there may have even been confetti that fell. My wife and I are not 100% on that. I want to think that it did, but it could have been that disco lighting, kind of like I was talking about with Widespread Panic, that was shining around the crowd. But it had that kind of an effect. The lighting was just so cool. Not my favorite song at all, but just really, really memorable that it sounded so freaking good live. And then with all of the pink and just the way it made that arena look, it's just really, really cool. This is truly a show that I wish I could have taken my kids to. It would have been a very proper introduction to concerts and why the legends are the legends that they are. And I think we can all agree that Steven freaking Tyler is an absolute rock legend. There is no doubt about it. Well, look, I think we've gone long enough on this week's show. I think this is going to be a good stopping point, and then we'll pick up right where we left off next week, and we'll finish the top 5. If you're still listening at this point, thank you. Share this podcast with your friends. Interact with me on the Tigs Bits social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. Leave the show a like and a review on your podcast streaming service of choice. And we'll see you next week when we start out with number 5.